Happy Thursday, everyone. It's Pam back with Perfectly Holistic, and I am so excited to have another great um, chat with one beautiful, amazing soul. You guys are going to love her. Welcome, Bonnie Bhattacharya, and I'm sorry if I butcher your last name. But I am
Hello,
so
Pam.
excited because Bonnie actually is one of the animal communicators that works for Perfectly Holistic. And she has a huge passion for pets and she has a deep spiritual connection. And her story is unique and amazing, and her talents are and gifts are so incredible, and she's doing such great work in helping so many pets and pet parents. So Bonnie, welcome to the show and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Pam. Thank you for inviting me. Hi, thank you for having me over. And I'm so excited to have this dialogue with you and people who are going to join in.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your beginnings, like how you came into doing what you're doing. There's always a story.
Yeah, and it all starts with cats. It all
Always
starts with
starts seems to
cats.
start with the pet somewhere. Yeah.
So, as I was growing up, I always had a lot of animals around me, from fish to dogs, but never cats, never cats. And then at some point in time in my 20s, early 20s, I was posted in Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India. And I used to work in shifts. And the night shift used to be those days when I would say, oh, I don't want to go to work. But I was coming back and it was late at night and I saw a tiny kitten. I mean, I cannot say how tiny, but Mitzi was probably smaller than the size of my palm.
Oh wow.
And sitting on the road, and when vehicles fly, you have a lot of road kills, but then the vehicle had stopped to drop off somebody because it was a shared vehicle, and I got up and I picked up the kitty. And I'm a vegan, so at night I had nothing to feed the kitty, and the kitty was so hungry that it ate rice, which was like, for me, it's like, I know this is not your food, but this is all that I can give you. Next day, I thought I would take the kitty and put it in an animal shelter. When I went to the shelter was, yeah, it's not a place for any animal, let alone a tiny kitten. And so Mitzi became my teacher. Long
Mhm.
story short, in 2015, this kitty came into my life in early 2003. 2015, I was asked by I mean, I work for a corporate for my day job, as in that fuels my bread and butter, and working with animals is a thing that's parallel. I was posted to Germany and I tried to stall my going because I didn't know what to do with Mitzi. And along with Mitzi, I had 8 other cats by then.
Of course you did.
Mitzi, unfortunately, ran away from a friend's farm because I had thought that I'm going to be relocating myself and then figure out a way to move all the animals. And in trying to settle them all in, my oldest and my youngest cats, which is Mitzi and Bagheera, both were very close to each other. One was almost 16 and 15, or 15. Mitzi was 15 and Bagheera was just 2. Both of them opened the cage and ran away.
Mm.
I was distraught. I was absolutely distraught. And animal communication was not such a big thing in India. And I went all over the place. And I mean, the difference is when you're working in the third world countries, you don't earn as much. And I was supporting animals. I didn't have any money. I literally had no money. And I was in tears because each time I reached out to animal communicators in the US, they would charge 150, 200. And when you convert that, it's like it's more than what you earn as a salary for the whole month.
Mm.
At that point in time, I decided once I go to Germany and once I am like back in my center, I'm going to learn animal communication and do it pro bono for people who can't afford. And that's
Mhm.
how I started doing it.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
I still do it. I mean, I have a lot more cases that I do pro bono than the ones that I sort of charge. And even when I charge
Mhm.
for it, I like to put the money away to charities because it's really for them that I'm here. And the joy of communicating is very different than just taking it as an income. If people don't have income and they do this as a place to earn money, that's also beautiful. But I have work that pays me enough and more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's
And this is an extra income which I like to sort of share with those animals who teach me what I do. And I think, Pam, I think you will agree that each time we communicate with animals, we are the ones who learn. Each time. There is no communication where we can say that I know it all.
absolutely. Yeah, like we've talked about many times, animals are our greatest teachers.
Yeah.
They just have so much to share, and um, we just have to have open minds and open hearts to hear, to get their messages.
Yes. And I guess for me, I personally believe that if an animal or a pet parent chooses us, we become the messengers and the catalysts. And not just that, there is a certain soul bond that I have to complete even with the pet parent, because we all come with certain soul contracts, even if it is just one communication. And the essence of it is, if the animals have chosen us to sort of complete this conversation through this contract, there are deeper messages that are there for all of us to assimilate out of these conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk about how you discovered this gift of animal communication, because not everybody wakes up one day and says, I'm going to start doing this because I want to help people who can't afford to do animal communication. So how did you find teachers, trainer, get the training, and um did it come easy for you? Like, did you all of a
Mm.
sudden wake up and go, oh my gosh, I have this gift, you know?
Oh, no, no, no. I didn't, because, like most people, I was not very comfortable with thinking that animal communication can be so easy. And it is easy. It's just that one has to be really open with the idea that I want to do it and I can do it.
Mhm.
And every animal communicates with the other. There is always the interspecies communication. It's just as we human beings have made life tougher for us, and we've closed ourselves and we've killed our intuition and the
Yeah.
ability to connect with nature. So my so I learned the animal communication through the Lightfoot Way, Kim Shotola and Alison Kluber, and they were the ones who had actually helped me connect with my lost cats.
Mhm.
That, because I couldn't pay at that point in time, they had done it pro bono for me. So this is just paying forward.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah, this
awesome.
is just paying forward, because if each of us do just one or two animals
Mhm.
and learn the art of giving where people really need it. I mean, I'm sure that there could be many people who just sort of try to extract things and want everything free and do not want to put in effort. But as and when you start connecting with animals, the intuition tells, this is the person you'd want to work with, and this is the person you do not want to work with.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that teeny tiny voice comes in. So animal communication is easy. It's just listening to our inner voice.
Right. Right. Did you realize that you had this intuitive ability, like when you were younger, or um like throughout your life, or was this something that you kind of woke up to?
No, no. I think I'm very intuitive right from the day I can remember. And when I did the animal communication course, at that point in time, I remember asking my teachers, because I know when an animal is about to transition. Their sign to me is they give me a light bite. So all my hands are scarred, because whether it's a cat or a bird or a dog, once they bite, I know that their time to transition starts. And nowadays, I communicate with them. I
Mm.
mean, it's it's been a pattern for the last 40 years.
Wow.
So it's just that earlier I did not know. I used to feel guilty that an animal has bitten me, and I remember asking my my doctor, my human doctor, do you think I have rabies because animals die because they bite me? And he looked at me and he thought that I've lost it. But I literally thought that to be the rationale behind the fact that they
Mhm.
bite me and in few days they're gone.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing. So it took a
yeah,
few for you to connect the dots to figure out,
yeah,
wait, they're trying to tell me something.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And this is way before I knew what animal communication is.
Right. Right.
Most of us, Pam, I think, including you, we will not know what animal communication is until something really big happens to our pets.
Yep. 100%. I had never even heard of it
Mm.
or fathomed it until after Snow Bear died. And it was a few weeks after, gosh, probably at least 6 to 8 weeks. I just happened, which is we know is no longer really a coincidence, but I happened across a video about an animal communicator talking
Mm.
to wild leopards or something in captivity, and it totally just like opened my mind, and I was, wow, are you kidding me? I need to learn
Mm.
how to do that because I really wanted to reconnect with Snow Bear. And so then starts the internet search like, hey, where can I learn? And I
Yeah.
happened across the Life It Way as well. So that's
Mm.
that's where I got my start. Um, yeah, so that's awesome. I just love stories of
Yes.
animals,
Yes, because I think when the first animals are the biggest teachers in our lives. I mean, they have been wonderful companions, but they become such a foundation for our animal communication that it starts with them. And usually
Mhm.
these are the deepest soul connects that we have.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah,
They
they're
would be the most beloved animals of ours who,
exactly.
yeah,
Exa exactly. So let's move on to the dowsing because that
yeah.
is such a cool tool. I just think it's
Mm,
one of the most unique, um, ways to really tap into intuition and get clarity and get answers and all of that. So share with our viewers how you came across dowsing and how you use it.
Oh, so this is extremely interesting because I had failed in testing my own muscles. And especially when you live alone, you cannot do muscle test with someone.
Right.
So at one point in time, I started asking around whenever there would be certain workshops of people that, how do you muscle test? And at one point, I realized that, oh, one can dowse.
Mhm.
And because it's the same as muscle testing, but there was always a hit and a miss with my dowsing. So let's say 10 times it could be good, but the 11th time it would fail. And that 11th time that it would fail, I would start questioning myself. And it
Mm.
was always that maybe the dowsing is not working, it's not for me, etc., etc. And there would be this constant mind chatter. And I'd been looking, but I still continued because then I would do a sort of muscle testing, and then
Mhm.
I would dowse to see if or not I'm getting
To test.
similar answers.
Mhm.
The 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 thing with muscle testing is if you are believing something, your muscles will start believing the same thing. I mean,
Mm.
let's say I would want to believe that I am, um, hypothetically, I'll believe that I still live in India and I have not cut off my roots, right? And if this is the statement true or false, and if I were to really press this hard, it'll become the truth statement, which is not. So I can sort of cheat myself with the muscle
Mhm.
test. But if the same question if I were to ask the the dowsing tool, but the thing with dowsing tool is never ask dowsing tool the question straight off. You've got to create that bubble because the ether is filled with the negatives and the positives. When you
Mhm.
muscle test, you're still safe, but not when you're doing the dowsing. Every time we hold the dows and we start asking the question, we are asking the question to the good and the not so good. So it's critical that one is grounded and then you say your prayers, call in your guardian angels, God, whoever you all believe in, whoever people believe in. And it's okay. Let's say you have an atheist and say, I don't believe in anybody else, you believe in yourself. Call in your higher soul because that
Mhm.
higher soul is still you.
Yep.
And then ask the question to the higher spirit, not to the dowsing tool, because the dowsing tool is just a tool. If you ask the tool, it can again be influenced by the negative or the positive. You never know. And whilst the whole chain is long, I like to make it a little shorter and
Mhm.
hold it over here so that the answer comes in really clear.
Yeah.
And then I ask the tool after I've protected it the question, and it has to be a simple question, not 3 or 4 layers of questions. So, for example,
Correct.
I would ask the tool, uh, "My name is Bonnie,"
Mhm.
and automatically you look, my hand is still, but then the tool has started moving. It's
Mm-hmm.
the truth statement of yes.
Yeah.
And I have to think, thank you. I just say thank you in my heart. The tool stops, and then I'd like to make the statement. Mm, Bonnie lives in Cameroon. True or false? And you see, it's just going false by itself.
So your yeses are forward back and your falses are right to left, correct?
Yes. So
Yes. And
it is
everybody
always
is
north
right.
and south. There is no. I don't use a maybe statement, Pam. So
I don't either.
this is the. Oh, let me see. This is the dowsing chart I use, and I
Mhm.
had programmed my pendulum basis the north south.
Okay.
North to south is yes, and east to west is no.
Okay.
And this chart is available. I think even if people were to Google out, because it's a standard chart that most people who douse use. But
Okay.
I've been introduced to this chart as um, I think it's as early as 6 months ago. And when I went to, when I found, like I said, I found a proper teacher, and they took me through the nuances of it, how to
Mm,
protect yourself, how to do a clearing, how to remove entities. So there are layers, and these
yeah.
are the things that I've started with animals as well. Because earlier in my animal communication, Pam, I never looked at animals running away because they might have entities in them,
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or they've been triggered, or the parent has been triggered.
Mm-hmm.
So now I start cleaning the layers, and there are about 20 layers to things, and I start working on each one. Ditto with checking with the chart to see if or not I have chances of finding an animal even before I say, okay, I know I'm going to be finding this animal, yes or no. I'll take the case. I check. Do I even take the case, or is it not going to be the right case for me?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
And so I've been utilizing this as a support to what I do. It does not override my intuition, but it enhances it.
Right.
And I guess dowsing is a tool that people can really depend on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use it a lot in my analysis and evaluations when I'm working with clients because I can be here for 30, 45 minutes just going through a checklist. And so it's a
Yes,
lot easier than getting, 5 minutes of muscle testing with your fingers, you're done. You're spent, your hands hurt, you just can't
yes,
do that long term. So, yeah, that's why I love using my pendulum as well when I'm going through and just getting, yes, no
yes.
questions, so it's easy. Mhm.
Something that I would want to talk about to the users is we always start with a gratitude when we use the pendulum, or even animal communication, or when people want
Mhm.
to use the pendulum. Remember that once you're done with using the pendulum, to remove the link with the person, the animals, whatever. It's not just cutting the cords, but removing the cords from the roots. Because when
Mm.
you have something, when you cut, the if
There's
it's a stem, it grows back. So
yes.
remove it, and then thank the angels, etc., who have been with you and have used the pendulum. Because when you do that, your pendulum gets cleaned automatically.
Can you share an example of what people could say to pull the roots to where
Hmm.
you cut the cords and all that? Like, share with how you do that with people.
So I mean, although we all have experiences, I like to keep my printed papers there with all
Mhm.
my prayers for various things, so that I don't miss out when I am doing any clearing,
Yep.
and I don't miss out the steps. So there are about 7 to 8 steps,
Oh,
but
okay.
the one that I do for clearing, this is, and it's known as my you can see, post session clearing. Yeah. So, for instance, Pamela, let's say you and I have done a workshop, and you've come
Mhm.
to me to clear stomachache. After I have done, I'm just going to call on to the spirit world, spirit guides, spirit doctors, because we are working with people who are helping us cure in that spirit world. I ask to break all links with Pam.
Mm. Mhm.
It can be the person, it can be the group, it can be the event, it can be a place. leaving only happy memories and balance at all ends, at your end and at mine.
Mm-hmm.
I ask to clear any residual energies being held in my being as a result of the link and the contact, and to send it over to the light of God or the light of fire
Mm-hmm.
to be transformed and transmuted, and to never cause any ill effect from this moment forward. I banish the spirit, I deactivate the life force, I scramble the frequency and neutralize the energy. May this be in the highest and the best for all involved.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's
So
that's beautiful.
it's going to appeal to people who are believers or non-believers, both. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I seldom see people who are non-believers doing the work that we do, but when you use a pendulum, even a non-believer can use it. You can be an atheist and you can still look at a pendulum.
Absolutely.
People use dowsing to find gold and water. So
Exactly. It's been for years.
yeah, so we can use pendulum to check if our pets are lost and where can we find them. I mean,
Yeah. So let's talk about that because this is so interesting. You have such a unique approach to how you approach finding a lost pet. So start with that. Like I know you brought up your map and all that. So show us how you do all that because it's really cool.
so I would like to put a disclaimer that even though we use this method, there is never a guarantee.
Yes.
Never a guarantee to be able to find a pet despite our best efforts. But I can share that there are two things that work, that have always worked with me. One is the meditation of golden cord. It's never let me down, whether an animal is in spirit form or whether an animal is in its 3D form.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to give this tool to the pet parents as soon as they come, because we need to be able to help the pet parents to ground. And there are various reasons why a pet is lost. Usually, a pet is lost because it wants to be a teacher to the pet parent, to bring them onto a new path, just the way you and I have been brought onto this path.
Mm-hmm.
And animals are evolved souls. Sometimes they give up their life if the pet parent is not open to learning, and they can do it over and over and over again, bringing the pain onto themselves, but they will eventually ensure that they have a soul contract that is completed.
Right.
The second reason why a pet cannot be found is if, despite all the best efforts, the the area that it must have moved out from is way too large, and in that case, we can connect to the pet. I mean, I do connect to the pet, but I help them cut the cord and move on to a new life.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise to the pet parent as well. But
Yeah.
if the pet parent is really distraught, we still have hope. And I keep telling that it can take years, but I can be very certain if the pet is in the same intent as you, that they want to meet up, there will be serendipities. Not to give up hope,
Sure. Sure.
right? And then that's when I use the tool of the dowsing
Mm-hmm.
communication. So it's, for me, it is, I start with the protection layer for myself and the pet parent in whichever sphere they are. The next one is I create in my mental state a little golden triangle from my heart to the heart of the pet parent, because now I'm connected to the pet parent. The pet
Mm-hmm.
parent to the lost animal or the animal in spirit. And
Mm-hmm.
then my heart with the animal in spirit or the lost animal. Once we have, so either the pet parent will get a news, or the pet is going to get spotted, or my communication is going to be open. Once the communication channels are open, I douse and check if it's a good time to connect with the animal. If it's a good time, I go back to the area where the pet was lost, the
Mm-hmm.
first area. And I'm going to take a real case which is still not resolved, of a kitty that was lost almost now 3 months ago. And the kitty moves in the area of Houston, all over the place. The last that my dowsing said was 50 miles away from where the pet parent is.
Oh wow.
That's a huge distance, and the pet parent does not want to go to that area. But so you see the grids, it tells me yes, no, yes, no. So it gives me hits and misses, but I've always got a hit on number one, the first area.
Mm-hmm.
I zero down, I blow that area up.
Mm-hmm.
Then I go to the other areas within it. Now, if you see number 19 and 20 shows yes, but that is a 50-mile area from
Yeah.
where the pet was lost. And the pet parent says that area is filled with criminals and it's a nasty place, and she's not very comfortable to get into that area. So now it's a conundrum, and each time I've been checking, the pet is still saying it's the same area, but that pet parent is to live in that area, and that cat was found as a feral cat from that area. What do you say to
Mm,
that?
wow. That's not the first time I've heard of a feral cat returning to their colony area. It's pretty amazing.
But now I have to convince the pet parent to get into that area. She has to really brace herself up and say, I'll go and look for the cat over there. And at night. So which is, I will not put anybody at risk. So my endeavor is to ensure that I get the cat out. And that's, it's like, for me, at this point in time, I'm between the devil and the deep sea. The cat is not wanting to come out from that area, and the pet
Yeah.
parent is scared to get into that area.
So have you told the cat which way to go home? Just out of curiosity.
So I have been trying to. The cat is very skittish, Pam, and
Mm,
it's lived in shadows all its life. It was a feral cat adopted,
uh-huh.
and and I'll let you know the name of the kitten. I think you'll be able to relate to it. This is Link.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, having been a feral cat, it refuses to come out during the daylight, and it's paranoid of humans.
Mm,
And I understand it. So, if it's paranoid about humans, how is anybody going to spot him?
yep. Yep.
So, when the pet parent does the golden cord, the cat is able to pick on it. I'm able to pick on it because I get days when say, don't douse, not, I mean, don't look, not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are days I wake up say, I think I should check with my dowser. And sure enough, the cat moves, but it's not moving out of 19 or 20. It goes from 20 to 19 grid. 19 to, if it were to get into 24 or 16, I can inform the pet parent
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere around. But that area is huge and it's really green.
Mm. So lots of places to hide.
Lots of places to hide.
Mm-hmm.
But there have been positive hits each time it was near the water. And then there was a huge storm in Houston about
Mm-hmm.
a month or 2 months ago, and that's when the cat moved. And it moved in about 2 weeks' time
Yeah. Yeah. Probably looking for safer, dry ground.
to its to its old area, and that baffled me when I learned that it's the old area. So 50 miles away is like a distance. I can't think, and then I thought, but this is a cat.
They're pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the first time I have encountered a cat going almost as far as that area. 50 miles is massive in my head.
Yeah. It is. It is. And it makes you wonder if maybe by accident they were in a vehicle hiding or something and were driven to
Exactly.
a different
I
space, you know?
just I check at times, even though I have been practicing animal communication for years now, I still like to go back to my teachers who've taught me or with people who communicate to
Mm.
ratify what I know. I mean, the animal communication teaches me how to be humble.
Yes, it does.
So I went back to the dowsing teacher of mine. I gave her the map. I told her of my conundrum, and she's getting the same hit.
Oh,
It
wow.
cannot be because I didn't tell her which grid. I just told her,
Yeah.
I'm going to send you the grid. Can you check if you get a yes or no anywhere?
Yeah.
That's it about the cat. And
Energy doesn't lie. I mean, what can I say? I say that all the time, but energy doesn't lie.
yeah, and I sit in Germany. She sits in Spain. There is no way she will be able to peep over my shoulder and see which are the hits and which are the misses.
Right.
So,
No, it's true. It's true. You can't make the stuff up. It just,
yeah.
you
So,
can
I
get it
mean,
corroborated, and that's so cool.
because there are days when I feel my doubt. I mean, I'm human, so I do have my moments of doubt, and I do think, Pam, oh, am I doing this correct? Am I really getting the answers, or am I just sort of having, is it a figment of my imagination? We all go through those
Mhm.
moments of doubt.
Mhm.
I mean, if any animal communicator would say, no, I know it all, I mean, I would say, well,
Be
I
ready.
say salute to you, but I can't do it.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, even trying to communicate with our own pets, I'll speak for myself. It's hard sometimes to no, let me rephrase. It's easy to question what I hear, what I get, because I know the pet so well. So am I
Mm,
creating what I already know, or am I getting the real message? You know what I mean? So it's,
yes.
yeah, it is easy to get to let that doubt creep in. Um, yeah. So what else can you share about um, how you douse and finding the pets? Is there anything else that you wanted to
Yes,
bring up?
I definitely would want to say that you need once one has done the clearing of the dowser, one should always just do a yes and a no. Don't go with the thought. Don't ask your pendulum to show you a maybe ever,
Right. Right.
because a pendulum can really show you black and white. There
Yes.
is no gray area.
Mhm.
But if you ask the pendulum to show you gray area, it will show you gray area. It's connected to you. And the other thing is, once people have a chart of this sort, like this is any dowser's chart. Any dowser can Google this out and call for a dowsing chart. The inner circle will give you the percentages, and the outer circle will give you time,
Mm.
as in what time, how many months. So it's
Yeah.
always broken down in that manner. And and when you sort of are dowsing, you can check with with the chart, and am I supposed to be able to find this animal in 1 week? It will say no. 2 weeks? No. 1 month? Yes. 5 months? Absolutely yes. So you know that between the span of 1 month to 5 months,
Mm.
you will be able to identify and see the pets. Seventh month, if it says no, you know that you will have found the pet. Will I be able to find this pet within this period? If it's a yes, then you know the pet's going to be in physical form. If it's a no, then you know that the animal might be transitioning into the spiritual realm.
Mhm. Mhm.
So the dowsing does give you a lot of finite and definite answers, but they are not written in blood and given to me.
Correct.
So that
Correct.
that gives me, yes, that gives me a time span to look for an animal. Beyond that time, I know that it's going to be an exercise that could turn futile.
Yeah.
So that's the golden period for me, or the pet parent.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. So, are there any really cool stories that you would like to share about how you found some lost pets? I know you shared
Oh
some
yes,
with me a while ago, but yeah, I'd pick like a couple of your favorites and tell everybody.
I definitely like to share the story of my one of my friend's cats, my friend's mother's cat, and at that point in time, I had not done any animal communication course. So that was one final push for me to really do the course formally.
Mhm.
So and I can be sitting over here, and if I have a pet, at some point in time, I hear voices. I literally can hear voices. It's not voices in my head, but in my heart. I do not know how to explain it, but anybody who connects with animals, you get this sense of knowing.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
a fine. Of course, this is possible. You don't doubt yourself at that point in time. So it's the
Right.
same thing. I asked my friend Vivian, "How's your mom's cat?" And she said, "Yeah, my mom's cat has run away, and she's really sad." She said, "Why are you asking me? You don't even. Neither have I ever met her mother, nor had I ever seen the mother's cat. I live in the central part. The mother lives in the northern part, and
Mhm.
Vivian was uh, she lives in the same city as I do, and we've been friends for the last 15 years now. So of course I know that her mother has a cat. So out of the blue, this thought has come in, and I pick up the phone and I ask her, "How's your mother's cat?" And because I just sort of was brushing my teeth one day at night, and I had it in my heart, so check on Vivian's mom's cat.
Mhm.
First thing I did the next morning was call her up, and she said my mom's cat has run away. And I said, and as she was speaking, I could literally tell her exactly where the kitty is.
Wow.
Huh. It was a winter month. The cat must have been locked up in garage, but I could smell fume. I could smell smoke. I
Mhm.
could smell
Gasoline
the
kind of smell.
gasoline,
Mhm.
me- taste metal in my mouth.
Mhm.
And Vivian's mother went, and she's a lady who's like in her 80s. Poor thing, she was distraught, but she printed the pictures. Vivian printed the pictures of the cat, made posters, sent it to her mother by courier. Her mother went and put it in the mailbox of each of the houses. In 3 days, the cat was back.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, and she did have grease on her tail, at sort of ratifying that yes, what we did pick up was true. So that's what for me was a really finite push for me to get into what I got into, and that I told Kim I'm ready. That
Yeah, that's incredible. So did someone actually find the cat, or maybe the cat was locked up somewhere and somebody
Well,
opened the door and maybe she got out?
after the
You think?
posters were put in, I guess they must have opened
Mhm.
and checked the garage, because very clearly it was written, please check your garage or check your basement.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so happy that's a good ending.
Yeah, because for me that was like the it was like written in stone that yes, I can do it. I mean, now I need
Mhm.
to find somebody who's going to
Right.
be able to teach me, and this is the right time.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so I know you have more than one. So what's your story?
I mean, there can be quite a few, but I guess that the toughest happens when it is your own pet, and when it's your
Mhm.
own pet who's not around you, or if they're in spirit, I would always suggest take the help of other communicators, because you can always doubt yourself with your own pets.
Yep, that's so true. If anybody's out there that's listening, if you're watching the show, if you have questions, drop them into the chat. We'll be happy to answer your questions. Um, take advantage of Bonnie while she's here. If you have, she's a wealth of knowledge about this sort of stuff. So please feel free. Um, is there anything else that you feel is important, or I don't know, something else on your heart that you want to share regarding what you do and how you do it, or anything else about dowsing?
So dowsing is all about grounding yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
not to douse without grounding, and we don't ask the same question over and over to the tool, because eventually if you force it to answer you, you will get incorrect answers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The first question and the first answer that you get is the finite one.
Yes. Yes.
So that's another golden rule that one needs to follow. So you may not want to be convinced about the answer, but the tool will not lie to you unless you push it to lie.
Right. Right. Because we are asking yes and no questions, or truths and falsehoods. So if the
So
answer is
don't,
true versus
yes,
false, I mean, it's going to be very clear, yes or
yeah,
no, you know.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So are you sure? No, no. It's a taboo question.
Dang, that's not the answer I wanted.
Exactly.
But that's the answer you were given, so you have to go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just have to go, you have to move on. Yeah. And I find that when I'm using the pendulum for testing and everything, sometimes it helps to be very, very specific in how you word the question. Because
Yes.
when you're dowsing, you can either make statements or questions, but you have to be very succinct, and you can't load them up with it can't be a combination kind of question. It's
Yes.
like do one little section at a time, one component of that question, and then you can build on top of that with the answer that you're given. Because otherwise you won't have clarity. It's just there's too many questions.
Yes. So let's say, for instance, when we look at the grid,
Mhm.
when it's we're talking about love.
Oh, you're
So
in the
my question.
shadow. Can you
Oh.
It totally went dark over there. Maybe the sun went down
Mm.
or so. Oh, there you go. There we go. Okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's better.
So when I have a grid over here and I'm looking for the pet, let's say the answer has come in as a yes in one of the blocks, then
Mhm.
my next question will be, is this the right time to look for the pet in this grid today?
That's a good question.
Today will become this hour. This hour will become now. And
Yeah.
if you get an answer in any of them as no, stop
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and ask, may I look for something in this particular phase? Yes, no.
Yeah.
So it's really short questions and small bites, and you
Mm-hmm.
have to keep. And sometimes we have 10,000 things happening in our head. So one has to declutter, write down those questions, and it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
I guess that when I work with animals and when I'm using my pendulum, it is always one question at a time, one moment at a time. It cannot be all the questions coming out together.
Mm-hmm.
Likewise, when you're connecting with an animal. So when people come to us for lost animals, or let's say animals who are gone, we get paragraphs. I break down those paragraphs into the questions that I feel that the pet parent is trying to ask. I send that back and say, are these the questions you're trying to ask? When
Mm-hmm.
I when I get yes from them, then I take it forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No,
Yeah.
that's very good. That's very it's a very good piece of advice. And I was also going to say, since you also do a lot of communication with pets who've transitioned, and you have a sense of, I guess I would call it a gift of connecting with pets like who are about to transition or
hmm
who have transitioned. Do you also use your pendulum sometimes when you communicate with them too to clarify answers?
Um,
Or is it
I
not necessary so much?
so when an animal is already in spirit, then you connect to them in the spirit form directly.
Yes.
When they're transitioning, then you take the help of the spirit guides, not to
Mhm.
the animal themselves.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I do check.
That's awesome.
But sometimes it says yes, you can connect, but the animal is not ready to communicate.
Right. Yeah. Because they have a transition period. They're in
Because
transition and they have to go through this probably sense of confusion, figuring out what happened, where they are, what happened to their body, where's my family? It's like they
So
have
this is
to.
something that I learned very recently because I was like, of course we can connect. And there was a case that had come to me, and the animal was not aware that it had already transitioned. And that threw me
Mm,
off a bit.
yeah.
Like, how can that be possible? And that's because the pet parent was also not ready to acknowledge that the animal was already in the
Mm,
spirit form.
mm-hmm.
It can be really um, a moment that shakes you up a bit because you take a lot of things granted when you're also communicating with animals. Of course, we can connect. If the answer is yes, that this is the right time, we connect, and then the animal is saying, I want to talk, but I'm not in spirit. Oh, no, but you are in spirit.
No, I'm not. Guess what?
And that's
Sorry.
when I had gotten ungrounded.
Yeah, it kind of threw you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was like, uh, excuse me. I mean, did I do the right thing? Am I connected? Or is this again? Because here we are always connecting to ourselves, finding the answers from within, even if it is through for an animal or with an animal. And it can
Mhm.
be, so I guess that something that I've learned not to second doubt. The moment I start doubting, I know that that's it. It's time
Mhm.
to close the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think something that you shared with me not too long ago was so important is that when we as a pet parent don't want to let our pets go who have transitioned, they can kind of get stuck. And they're not like
Yes,
in this particular case, he's like, why aren't my pet parents paying attention to me? And
yeah.
they're just like upset and they're like, they don't understand. It's like they're in this limbo because the cords are still, it's holding them back and they can't move
Mm.
on. So talk about that because I think it's so important.
So in the human form, time is limited, but
Mhm.
in the esoteric realm, time is circular, not limited, and that's where you talk about reincarnation. In most cases, animals find it very easy to let go of their body, unlike humans. They
Yeah.
also have their own little rituals, which humans say that they are the only ones who have ceremonies and rituals, which is incorrect. Rhinos have it, whales have it, hippopotamuses have it, ants have it, because when an ant dies, and if one has been very observant, they carry the dead ant and give it a ceremony to let go,
Interesting.
and then, yes,
Wow.
bees have it. So it's there in almost all the creatures, a ceremony of letting a body go. And they all know that the soul is connected. We have moved away from the thought that soul is eternal, is connected. And oftentimes when pet parents are grieving so much, the pet does not want to let the pet parent grieve, especially when the bonds are tight. This is not the case when an animal has been abused, or when an animal has had a bad life with the pet parent, but it had to complete its soul contract, so it lived on. Those are really sad cases as well. But when the bond has been very tight and pet parents are not willing to go, animals stay on, even in the spiritual form. And they are not getting they are not able to complete their journey. So there is this transition phase that happens. They're not able to do it because they would rather be stuck in the limbo and be with the pet parent than letting the pet parent suffer alone. And hence, it's important for the pet parents to grieve, but learning to let go. So in this part, it's the lesson of learning to let go for the pet parent, which comes with, and here, a lot of animal communicators who are dealing with this act as communicators and have to hold hand of the pet parent rather than of the animal. So a lot of times, animal communicators work with human beings rather than just the animals.
It's true.
It's a two-way process.
You're the messenger. Yeah, you're the messenger and the coach.
And holding the hand, exactly.
And the coach, and the psychologist. It's hard. It's so hard. I mean, I hear cases quite often where pet parents their pet died months ago and they are still so deep in grief that they can't move on. And it's really, really sad, because if only those pet parents understood that their pets don't want them to be grieving and put their lives on hold and like not able to function without them present. That's not what they want for us. They want us to know that their relationship is still there. It's just changed how we communicate.
That's the reason I like to give people the ceremonies that I give. I think you've known that when I get people with the pets who have transitioned, I like to walk them through a ceremony. When you do the ceremony, it sort of starts psychologically. It helps you to understand that it's still there. It's going to come and go with the season. And then you start decluttering and making space.
Yes. Yeah. It's
moving. Yeah, it's moving the grief into acceptance and then into the anticipation of a plant growing.
And we miss so much when we close ourselves off and we're not able to let go and move on. We could be enjoying life. Our hearts could be open several months later to welcome a new pet into our life who really needs us. But we're so closed and we're suffering in this grief that we're holding on to unnecessarily, when our pets don't view it that way,
So
who transitioned.
the important part is when people have lost their pets and they are holding on to their pets, the pets cannot take in a new life form. So even if they would want to come back, they can't. So it's very important to let them go.
That's a very good point. And it's so hard, but Yeah, there's, like you said, we have to all go through our process, and it doesn't mean that you don't grieve, because we do. We miss them terribly, but we have
Yeah.
to let them go, because that way, if they do want to come back to us, we're just delaying that process. I mean, you could look at it like that. We could be delaying the process. So,
So for pet parents who grieve, and I did this exercise for myself. When I knew that the time was up for my cat who was lost, and he was he'll be now 18. You can't survive in that. So I now know for sure that he is in spirit form. It's been ratified. Each time I breathe, I feel that a part of my pet is coming with me in my breath and my
mm,
heartbeat. And then,
mhm.
then I let go. And it becomes like a little game. And
Yep.
then it's also like your pranayam or the meditation. So this
Mhm.
is something that I think I like to teach the pet parents when they can't stop grieving.
Yes. Yes, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Belle has a comment. She says, "Thank you for sharing so much. This is all very helpful, Bonnie. And I appreciate you sharing your methods, especially the breaking, release of all links, and clearing residue. It makes so much sense rather than just cutting cords."
Mm,
So,
thank you.
it's, it's true. It's true. Well, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up? Anything else you
I
want to share?
absolutely. I think people who are coming to animal communicators at some point in time, you all will need to have that faith that you too can communicate with your animals.
Hmm.
So walk that path. It's never going to be, yes, I'm going to do it tomorrow. It's a journey, but that journey can be started with this lifetime and it continues.
Absolutely. Yeah, and don't be afraid. It's
No.
it's pretty amazing. It's really
And I guess we all need to acknowledge that we need to be able to look at our pet parents not just as our babies, but as our companions, as our teachers, and learn from them. They
Mhm.
have a lot to teach us.
Amen. They do. We we just have to be better students.
Yeah.
You know? We really do. We have to be ready to be that to be the student, to learn, you know?
Yes.
So it's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time with us while you're on vacation, no less. I appreciate you. Um, I know you're in the States actually visiting some
Yes.
family, which is awesome. So, Bonnie, I just want to tell people that they can find your services on the shop.perfectlyholistic.com website under animal communication, and you specialize in pets who are in transition or who have transitioned and lost pets.
And
So,
lost.
yeah, so if you guys are ever in a situation where you would need her services, please let us. We would love to be of service to you and your pets and your families. Um, so, anyway, thank you. Have a
Thank
beautiful
you so
rest
much,
of
Pam.
your day and your vacation, and we will be in touch very soon. I appreciate you. Have safe travels.
Thank you, Pam. And I hope that people don't get into the situation where they have to approach us for lost pets, at least. But
I
transition is
know.
the way of life. So,
Exactly.
and even if the pets are lost, I hope that people who are going to be listening to this will look at it with a different perspective, and not all hope is lost. Sometimes pets
Absolutely.
do come back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a great place to end it up. So thank you once again,
Thank you.
and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back next. We'll be back soon with more videos.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.